Join me as we walk the Yorktown battlefield. Welcome to Stone of Help. Now today we're at Yorktown, and more specifically the Yorktown battlefield. I've got this map behind me here. You can see where you've got the British flags. You can see where General Cornwallis was camped out. You see the bottom right of the map. You see where George Washington had his army there. In the bottom left, you see Washington's ally, which was Roche. I think I'm pronouncing this correctly. Rochambeau. He was French. Their army was there, and you see in the water in the river there, you see the navy there. That is the French Navy under Admiral de Grasse. So this is kind of how things were set up. I'm not going to go into great detail, but I'm just going to hit a few dates and share some things that happened. So let's just start at August the 1st, 1781. General Cornwallis, he occupies Yorktown, planning to use the port as a base for resupply, and you can see why we do that because how it's located on the river. August the 19th, the Allied Army under George Washington begins to move south. If I'm not mistaken, they were moving from New York to Yorktown. August the 29th, French Admiral de Grasse arrives at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. On September 5th, while the Allied Army is still en route, they're still marching from New York down to Yorktown. While this is going on, the Royal Navy, or the British Navy, attempting to sail up the bay to Cornwallis, to bring supplies, they're met by the French warships at the mouth of the Chesapeake. In this encounter, called the Battle of the Capes, the British fleet is defeated and they're forced to abandon Cornwallis. Now, after they leave Cornwallis, the French can keep their blockade set right there. So now Cornwallis is blocked waterway. He's blocked on the waterway. September 14th, Washington and Rochambeau arrive in Williamsburg and prepare for their armies to arrive. September the 28th, Allied armies leave Williamsburg and they march to Yorktown. October the 6th, Allies begin digging the first siege line. October the 9th, the French open fire at 3 p.m. and Washington opens firing the first American shot at around 5 p.m. On October the 11th, the Allies begin to dig the second parallel. On October the 14th, Allies storm and capture redoubts 9 and 10. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this right here, when these were captured, that blocked Cornwallis's escape route by land, if I'm not mistaken. October 16th and 17th, with Allied artillery firing pretty much point blank, destroying his fortifications and causing high casualties, Cornwallis decides, it's time to escape Yorktown. And so at about midnight, Cornwallis moves his troops to the waterfront and he begins to ferry them across the river. After some are evacuated, a sudden storm arrives with such intensity that the evacuation, it's abandoned. Then you get to October 17th, a British officer with a flag of truce, he appears. Cornwallis he's seeking a ceasefire so they can negotiate surrender terms. On October the 18th, commissioners meet at the Moore House. The British argue the terms for many hours, but to no avail. On October 19th, in the afternoon, the British garrison at Yorktown marches to Surrender Field to lay down their arms. The Battle of Yorktown had been won by George Washington and the Allied armies. And, this was in 1781. The Revolutionary War didn't end for 2 more years. However, the British surrender at Yorktown, it forecasted the end of British rule in the colonies and the birth of a new nation, which obviously was the United States of America. So we could say that Yorktown was pretty much the beginning of the end of the British rule and the beginning of the beginning for America. And we've been talking the last 2 videos about the foundations of America. You know, the flag was planted at Cape Henry, and then the foundations, they kept that same foundation when they planted Jamestown. And now America itself is being planted. And we've got a General George Washington, who later became the first president. And I'm going to tell you, this man understood the foundation. He knew where the foundation of America was from. And I'm going to tell you what we need in America. We need some more George Washingtons. Is exactly what we need. So let me just give you a few quotes that he said. 1777. Now, this was 2 years after the American Revolution had started. George Washington said, "I flatter myself that a superintending providence is ordering everything for the best, and that in due time all will end well." 1783, when the American Revolution was over, George Washington said this: "Glorious indeed has been our contest. Glorious if we consider the prize for which we have contended, and glorious in its issue. But in the midst of our joys, I hope we shall not forget that to divine providence is to be ascribed the glory and the praise." He knew the foundation. 1789, looking back at the Revolution, George Washington said, "The man must be bad indeed who can look upon the events of the American Revolution without feeling the warmest gratitude toward the great author of the universe, whose divine interposition was so frequently manifested in our behalf." He recognized when God was there. He recognized his intervention. And I pray that some George Washingtons would be raised up at this point, at this time in America again. Thanks for joining me. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.